Welcome back to Beer Brackets, everybody. We are continuing on with our amazing summer here of reviewing big wheat beer brands that we haven't gotten to yet. And my friend, we're finally getting to this beautiful, wonderful beer. The Erdinger Dunkel sits on the perfect beer roundtable, which is just the most prestigious roundtable that a beer could possibly be taken a seat at. But the Erdinger Weissbier, the flagship beer of the Erdinger Brewery, has yet to be reviewed officially by Beer Brackets, even though it made an appearance on Beer Brackets of the Month, buddy. It has not been reviewed, but today we're finally going to get to it. This is so exciting.
And I will say, you were quite the, let's say, ahead of the time. Like, you introduced it very early on in the history of Beer Brackets. And I do still remember when talking about making comparison to champagne, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, exactly. It's like it was called, at least on a lot of the English websites, it's called like the champagne of beer for the secondary fermentation that happens in the bottle, which we will get to in a second. But oh man, I'm so excited to review this one from the town of Erding, Germany, the Erdinger Weissbier. So, buddy, this brewery is very, very, very important for a couple of reasons. One, it's the world's largest wheat beer brewery, which alone is a fantastic fact that makes it extremely relevant in our beer journey here. It was founded in 1886, as I mentioned, in the town of Erding, Germany. And Erdinger does mean something from the town of Erding, possibly somebody, a beer drinker, a beer explorer. The secret, as they say, lies in their iconic yeast that they use, and also their double maturity method. And we have a whole Inside the Brackets episode on the Bavarian double maturity method. Link to it down below. Definitely go check that out if you haven't yet. So we won't get into too much detail on that here. And it's been brewed with 60% wheat malt, which gives it that sort of classic hazy appearance, as we've gotten into in the last couple of episodes talking about wheat beers, that haziness caused by one being unfiltered, but also that high percentage of wheat malts in the mash, in the mix there. My friend, I am so excited for this one, buddy. I don't know. When's the last time you had an Erdinger?
You know what? If we are not counting the Dunkel, the regular Erdinger, I think last time I had it was actually in Italy. I think it was on tap, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah. So actually,
it's been a long time.
In a bottle, it has been quite a while. So I'm excited. I'm very excited.
This beer must be interesting on tap. I can only imagine what this is like on draft.
You know, first of all, like it's quite iconic, just like you were describing. To be honest with you, probably at least in Italy, during my beer exploration early years, it was pretty much synonymous with wheat beer. You know, it was Erdinger. There wasn't really much else.
That's so interesting, because growing up in North America, I mean, it was Hoegaarden was the wheat beer for us here. And I know that people down in the States, maybe Blue Moon was just as iconic depending on how old you are, but at least in Canada, we didn't get Blue Moon for a long time. And go back and watch our review of Blue Moon for a little bit more history on that and how that applied to my Canadian heritage and my beer experiences there. So now, buddy, we have an amazing discovery to make here, because their Dunkel, as we said, is on the perfect beer roundtable, but will the classic wheat beer wind up there? Let's pop these beers open and find out. I'm so excited. And again, one of the big characteristics of any Erdinger beer is the secondary bottle fermentation. If you are curious about what that is, definitely check out that Inside the Bracket episode, but it does give it a very champagne-like quality.
And may I add also that I love their, the appearance of the bottle, the color, the logo, right? Everything is so classic, but yet so catchy. It's very well done.
It's so classy. Their branding, that like beige coloring with the font, it's very, very, very well done. I agree. Got my official Erdinger glass here.
Look at the carbonation on this one.
Oh, geez. Look at that. I just poured out a tiny little bit and it filled the glass.
Yeah, you have the right foam. Glass also. Like, that makes it even better.
Right? Because this is like, you need something tubular like this to just sort of like contain the foam. Oh my God, we're gonna have to like let this beer settle and come back to it. This is gonna be a bit of a process. I think I barely like have any beer in here.
Look at that, like carbonation. How lively that is.
Oh my God, I'm gonna have to let this sit for a little bit. This glass, I was so happy to get this glass for anybody. I know there's like in the beer world, beer glass collecting is like a big sort of niche. And there's a lot of beer glass collecting nerds out there, which is amazing. I love that. So the story of getting a glass is almost as interesting as getting a beer for some people. This one, last Christmas, I think I sent you a picture when I found this, but the LCBO liquor stores here all of a sudden had this Erdinger mix pack where they had the clear, anyways.
The
I'll put a
Cristal,
picture of it up
I think
here.
it was.
The Cristal, yes. They had this, the Dunkel, and they had the Pincus. Picantis?
I think, yes, that's the one that I don't think I've ever had. Like, because I remember you sending me the picture and I said, "Ooh, that's fun." Like, I've never had that one.
And it came with a glass, which was just an amazing deal. Well, cheers, buddy. Aroma cheers.
Cheers to you, my friend.
Finally reviewing the Erdinger wheat beer. What do you think?
Wow. I will
head.
say we're coming from reviewing other wheat beers, so that makes it a little bit easier in a sense, like to compare. My goodness, like this is next level. You know, you get like this fluffy, very airy malt presence.
Yeah.
Very, very gentle, not sweet. Yeah. And the perfect balance between sweet and savory, almost like bread-like. And then you have these beautiful aromas, estery aroma coming from the yeast. It's not intense, a little bit of clove, like tending more towards the clove than banana, really. It's very balanced. I'm going to start with the 3, my friend, here. I can't wait to get in that glass, and that's usually like a very good sign.
Oh, I'm a little torn here. It's you know what's so cool about this? But look how the head is just like stagnant. The beer moves under the head.
Isn't that cool?
The head just stays perfectly still. It's crazy. This beer just aesthetically is just unbelievable. We should not only should we have a category for sound, we should definitely have a category for visuals.
For visual, yeah, it's the coming.
Visual
it's
of
coming.
beer. We need to expand our beer rating categories. You know, everything you said, it's delicious. That sort of really well-balanced, airy maltiness. That was the perfect descriptor. Breadiness, almost like freshly baked bread, but in a very light, airy way mixed. And you get the hops is there as well as a little bit of a hop kick to the aroma. The only thing I would say is that it's delicious and it's making me want to go in for a sip. I like to save 3s for something that has an element that's a little bit of an outstanding, like a little bit of an outlier, and something that's very special, very kind of unique, and something that really takes it over the top. It's not quite there for me. So, my friend, I'm going to break the perfect beer streak, unfortunately, right away, and the Erdinger Weissbier is not going to get a seat at our perfect beer roundtable, but I'm going to go with a 2.5. Very high, but just missing a little bit of that X factor, that beer factor. It's missing a little bit of a beer factor to notch it up to a 3.
Well, I can see that. I can see that. So
yeah, let's take a sip, man.
Cheers.
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 Enjoy.
Wow.
Such a fantastic beer.
Wow. That's incredibly refreshing.
Yeah.
It has that unique, I'm going to stick with that like airy malty presence because I think it's what's best describes it for me. Malt is there, very clearly present, but it's not, it's not dense by any stretch of the imagination, both in, texture, which is more of a mouthfeel kind of thing, but also just like the taste. It's almost like surrounded by this like ethereal layer of estery components. Like really, that's the best way I can describe it. Like this, like
it definitely is.
Like night sky that has all these like little lights of all
these little estery lights.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I keep going back to this descriptor, the clove there, and in this beer in particular, I think even more than in the Weihenstephaner, I think the clove characteristic for me comes out a little bit more. I quite like it, but I think that coming from the aroma, at least for me, it lost a little bit there on the taste. I was expecting a little bit more presence, which can be a positive for someone. For me, it just brings it down like a little notch, so 2.5 for me, my friend. What do you think?
You know what I always loved about the Erdinger is, people knock this beer because it's very mild. We just reviewed the Blue Moon. When you take a sip of Blue Moon, you're assaulted with this maltiness and also the orange, the Valencia orange peel. Those tastes are really, really strong. Everything on here is subtle on the taste. And what that does is it creates this crushable wheat beer.
It does.
That's almost like a lager.
Yes.
In that sense. And it's just so drinkable, and the flavors are, it's like drinking a light lager. Yes. Almost. The flavors are, and the fact that it's a wheat beer and that this will come in the mouthfeel, it has body to it, but the taste is very mild. So for some people, that's a detractor. For me, not so much, because wheat beers aren't really my go-to, but this makes for a very, very palatable wheat beer, something that I would happily drink any beer session. You mentioned you didn't get a lot of banana and clove. You know what I'm getting a lot on this, and that struck me right away, is that bubblegum taste. And this might be something for people that, that's a descriptor that you're not thinking of right away. I know that's associated with estery characteristics a lot, but you're not really thinking it until maybe I say it, that maybe it'll pop it into your head.
But that's, my friend, it's for a lot of people, like it really depends on how it's perceived. Like,
yes.
Like you were saying, it's a very good point of pointing that out. Like for me, it's still like more that banana component, but yeah. I can see, now that you mentioned it, I can see that it's a little bit more tending towards that bubble gum.
Yeah, but you can interpret that as banana if you're thinking banana. You can interpret that as, there's strong clove characteristics in there as well. So it's really almost a matter of what you're thinking as well with these things, right? So that's what you're going to pull out of it. I'd agree, man. I think 2.5 is a very fair score. I'm really enjoying the taste of this. Again, I would like to bump it up to a 3. There would need to be something a little bit more, groundbreaking, something that makes it stand out a little bit more. But it's so well rounded, so balanced. 2.5, excellent score. Now, beer bracket tradition, buddy. We got to do a little refresher of our Erdinger here. This is the most dangerous refresher we've probably ever done in beer brackets.
You're right. It's the champagne of beer after all, right?
Yeah. Okay, it's had time to quiet down a little bit. I actually think we need to pull out the full. Have you poured out your full beer yet?
I did.
I haven't yet, but I need to get the yeast.
Oh,
at the bottom of the bottle.
I had swirled it a little bit before doing it, so I got like as much as I was able to get.
Please don't fault me at home for not getting the yeast.
Stop! Don't forget the best bit.
Look at that beauty.
That's so fantastic. So fantastic.
Picture perfect right there. Okay. What do you think of the mouthfeel, buddy? This head is a sentient being. It's like a symbiote. It just molds with the beer.
It becomes its own one thing. Like, it stands on its own.
It's connected but separate. It's alive in itself.
I'm very surprised by how highly carbonated the beer is. And obviously, there's a reason why it's referred to as, champagne of beer, and why they put a lot of attention to the bottle conditioning or can conditioning we've learned recently. And it comes across definitely. It
definitely shines through.
It shines through in a different way than Busch Light.
Or Busch Light. Busch Light is just going to live in infamy on this channel forever.
Well, you never know. It could come back. It could come back.
We still have not done an actual official review of Busch Light, so keep an eye on it.
That's exactly right, my friend. You never know.
What's that smell that's got?
It's not a funky smell. It's Busch Light.
Is that just the bush?
Again, there's one element that for me is lacking. And lacking is the wrong term. Like that, I prefer normally in other wheat beers that I've had, and I think that now that I've tried it after some time, I can pinpoint it a little bit. Now that I've explored more of the wheat beer territory with you, the carbonation is perfect. I wish there was a little bit more of that creamy sensation, slightly
I see what you mean.
In the Weihenstephaner that we both so much liked. So I think, my friend, I'm going to go with the 2.5 again here, because it's very crushable, but it's missing that little element for me. What do you think?
This is tough because you have to rate it against other wheat beers, right? Anytime we're rating a beer, when you're visualizing a score, you have to take it in the context of other similar beers of the same style. If I'm comparing this to other wheat beers, like you said, it doesn't have that creaminess. It's much more crisp. I compared it to a lager before. It has that sharp carbonation. It's much lighter of a mouthfeel. It's not as like oily as something like we saw in the Blue Moon. Even that Hoegaarden had slightly, but Blue Moon was really kind of thick and oily. It has a little bit of that, more so than a lager or pilsner, but it's not strong. It's somewhere in the middle. It's like this muddy mouthfeel. I'm torn. I think I'm going to go with a 2 on 3. I'd actually like it to be even more sharp. You said you like the creaminess. I'm going the opposite direction. I'd like it to be more crisp. If you're going to go with the bottle conditioning like this, go all the way, man. Give me something really highly carbonated and like crunchy in mouthfeel, like just like sharp. Give it a bite. All right, buddy. The finish of this beer is interesting.
Finish.
What do you think?
Another reading here to make sure. On the finish is where the estery components of this beer are more prominent. While, you can definitely pick them up in the aroma, a little bit on the mouthfeel. The finish is definitely where, especially if you wait a moment, you can pick up almost all the notes that we both said, like a banana, a bubblegum, like that clove that comes across. Like, so you really get that classic German yeast shining here. Like, it's very, very,
absolutely.
very well represented. There is I like the comparison you made with a crisp lager, because it has that type of finish, and this really just comes down to preference. But it's almost like when in my head, like when I taste that estery component, it has that initial hint of classic wheat beer, but then like you're saying, it almost finishes like a lager, and
it does, yeah.
Which again, like that's probably why a lot of people really enjoy it. But for me, I don't know, like it's almost going in a little bit in the opposite direction, in the sense like it's
okay.
I don't know if I'm fully into that. So I think actually on the finish, my friend, I'm going to go with the 2. It leaves me a little bit unsettled, let's say.
You almost assume that there's going to be something there that isn't. Some strong wheat beer characteristics like those estery, banana, clove, or that there's going to be some hoppiness or some maltiness. You're waiting for something, and there's a little bit of all those things, but nothing really stands out, which makes it really drinkable. But it's just a little bit muted. I'm really enjoying it. As far as wheat beers go, this is just very mild and it's very drinkable. But I don't think I can give it higher than a 2, just because it's balanced, it's good, it's drinkable, but it's nothing remarkable. But it's very well done. Now, my friend, is the overall beer experience for Erdinger Weissbier, from start to finish, as an overall beer experience. What do you think?
There are obviously some intangible, in the sense that, like I was explaining before, this is probably one of the first German hefeweizens that I was kind of introduced to. So there's definitely like some memories there, like but
some beer memories.
Beer memories, exactly. Beer
memories.
Very strong ones.
Very strong beer memories.
The strongest ones, but I think while like I really enjoyed like the initial aroma and the balance of all the elements, I think the balance for me has been moving more towards, like leaning more, as you've seen in the score, like leaning more towards the 2. And I'm a little torn here, because like overall, if I'm thinking about it, I can really tell that this has like a high degree of sessionability, let's use this term, which is something that you also mentioned. Like, it's a beer that is really easy to enjoy, like, and so that must be taken into consideration. I think, my friend, I'm going to stick with the 2.5, because it's kind of like midway between the scores I've been giving. I think that it's clearly like extremely very, very well done. And maybe part of that is that I have also had it, I know I've had it on tap, and I know that on tap it adds a little bit extra element. Like, so there's a little bit of room for improvement there. What do you think?
This is a bit of a beer unicorn, my friend, because this is one of those situations where, even though when you break it down category by category, it might not have achieved a perfect score. This is one of those situations where, for me, as an overall beer experience, it is a 3 on 3. I love Erdinger. the wheat beer. It's a fantastic beer experience. It's unique when you pop it open, like you saw, that explosion of carbonation is exciting, gets you all happy. Like, oh my God, look, my glass is overflowing with carbonation. It's an exciting start to your beer experience. And then you start drinking it. It's not what you expect. It's a little mild. It's more lager-like.
It's an adventure.
It's a beer adventure. And it's an adventure all the way through. And it keeps a consistency and quality all the way through. And for me, it's just, as far as all the intangibles taken into account, it is a 3-on-3 beer experience. I love a good Erdinger. So we're close on this one. We're really close for Alessandro. It comes up to a 4.16 on 5, which on our rating system is an excellent beer. And for myself, it's a little bit lower, but still in that excellent beer category with a 4 on 5. Well, there you go, everybody. Let us know down below, what do you think about Erdinger? And by the way, click that beer bell. Subscribe to the channel, but also click the beer bell if you haven't. If you want to drink future beers along with us, if you want to hang out in the Beer Brackets pub with Alessandro and Joe, you got to click that beer bell, or else YouTube's not going to let you know. They're not going to send you the invite and let you know, like, hey, they're in the pub. Come join us for a beer. You got to click that little beer bell.
Make sure
there.
you join us. Bring the beer along. Drink with us.
Bring a beer. Let us know in the comments what you're drinking as you're watching the episode. Let us know down below. Have a beer along with us. Cheers, everybody. Thanks for joining us, and keep an eye open. We do have some more wheat beer content coming in the summer of wheat beer. And whatever you do,
don't forget to close your beer brackets.
Never forget. Cheers, everyone.
Cheers.
Stop! Never skim an Erdinger.